If you're getting frustrated and losing your temper, you are making golf harder for yourself. But worse, you're not enjoying your time on the course. In this video, I'm going to explore 5 common reasons that golfers get angry. But more importantly, I'm going to give you 4 solutions that you can start using in your next round. My name is Jon Sherman, and if you read my book, The 4 Foundations of Golf, you know that I had an anger outburst on the course almost 20 years ago that really changed my game forever. For a long time, I never really reached my potential because I had such a short fuse on the golf course. And I want to help you move past some of the things that drive us absolutely insane in this game. Number 1, perfectionism and unrealistic expectations. Golf tends to attract type A control freaks. And many of you are unknowingly set standards for their game that are just way too high. I see this all the time for 2 reasons. The first is that most don't even know what a reasonable shot is for their skill level. Whenever I share stats on social media about what good shots actually are from 100 yards, the data really blows most people's minds. They just assume that anything out of 10 to 15 feet is not good enough, and it creates this false reality that they can never live up to. And they get really pissed off at shots that are actually above average. Secondly, I see golfers who can only practice a couple of times a month and maybe play 10 to 20 rounds a year that expect way too much of their games. This is the exact trap that I fell into when I was most angry and miserable in my golf game. So do not underestimate how much time it takes on and off the course to feel comfortable, and more importantly, build your ball striking and playing skills. So when we create these fantasies of what our games should look like and reality can never live up to it, we just get really angry and frustrated. Now let's move on to number 2, ego and self-worth attachment. If golf is a significant part of your life, it's easy to blur the lines between our game and our self-perception. It's really sad to admit it, but sometimes we see our results on the course as personal failures. Our identity can get so wrapped up in this game that sculling a wedge or missing a short putt becomes an assault on our own egos. Now, this might sound crazy to a non-golfer, but most of you watching this video literally knows what it feels like to drive home after a round miserable, and it can actually ruin your mood for the rest of the day. So when we can't detach what we feel about ourselves and our results, we can get a little pissed off. Number 3, helplessness and loss of control. Let's say you've been looking forward to your Saturday morning round all week and envisioning how you're going to play. Then on the 6th hole, you're 10 over par, you've lost 2 balls, and you've got no idea what happened. Anger is a really normal response to feeling helpless on the golf course. And quite often, players have no idea why they're slicing their driver into the trees, and more importantly, they don't have any type of adjustment that they can make when they get into this trouble. And your buddies are saying to you that you got quick or you picked your head up, but when you start feeling your round slipping away, and worse, you're not equipped to intervene with any kind of physical or mental intervention, it's quite easy just to lose it. Number 4, social pressure and shame. One of the most common fears I've heard from thousands of golfers is worrying about what their playing partners think of their game. I experienced this on some level, and I know many of you have as well. There's just an extra layer of anxieties that we sometimes feel when we need to perform well in front of our friends or even a random playing partner that we got matched up with. So when we don't get what we want, anger is a defensive response to feeling a little ashamed about playing poorly. How many times have you been around someone who loses it and then they say, "I've never played this bad before"? I think we're all guilty of that at some point. But the funny thing is that most of your playing partners are so concerned about their own fears that they are mostly thinking about themselves and not worrying about what's going on in your game. But of course, if you're tossing clubs and cursing, they are going to notice. Now let's move on to number 5, rumination. A lot of golfers get angry because they keep replaying the shot they hit in the water on the 3rd hole over and over again in their head. They can't let it go, and they get stuck in what I would call a mental loop, and it's really not pleasant. We keep replaying this negative event in our heads, and the frustration keeps mounting and mounting because you just can't let it go. Now, the PGA Tour player that I work with has to deal with this quite often, and we have ample evidence that when he can break this cycle faster and gets over it, he can feel and play much better. I could keep going on forever about the reasons why this game drives us absolutely mad, but let's transition into some methods to help alleviate anger. And I just want to reiterate that it is perfectly normal to have emotion on the golf course. Some of us naturally run hotter than others. But like many things in golf, it's when you veer into extremes that you start to see real problems and you never reach your potential. And honestly, you're just having a lousy time out there. So let's try and avoid this. Here are 4 ways to deal with anger when you feel it's becoming a problem for you. Number 1, start asking yourself good questions. I cannot stress how important this is. If you are having an emotional response to a shot, try and follow it up with a good question. In other words, you want to transition from emotion to objectivity. Was it a target issue? Were you not committed? Perhaps most importantly, diagnose the impact issue. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of golfers get angry because they feel helpless and they don't know why things are happening and certain ball flights are appearing on the golf course. But if you have a good understanding of ball flight laws and impact dynamics, hint, you've read my book or you've listened to the Sweet Spot podcast, then you can quickly diagnose that it was a heel strike or maybe an open club face, or maybe you made contact with the ground way too far behind the ball. So when we start to go through this analysis, we start thinking less about how badly we suck and hate our golf game and start picking up on patterns that we can hopefully adjust. On the flip side, you might have reacted negatively to a shot, and then when you thought about it rationally, you realized it wasn't that bad. That's why understanding stats for different handicap levels is so important. Or we can just discard some of these poorer shots as the normal variance of how the game works and just move on with our rounds. Number 2, you've got to keep perspective. Most problems in life and even on the golf course happen when we all lose perspective. As tricky as it is at times, you have to remind yourself that golf is just a game and your score is not a life or death trial of your character. No matter what happens out there, you're going to be fine. And more importantly, you cannot fall victim to only letting your results and scores dictate about how you feel about the day or your game in general. Sometimes I need to remind myself that when I get home, my wife and my kids aren't really going to care how I played that day. However poorly I might be playing, it's just a small stretch compared to the entirety of every round I've played in my life. So when you and I get angry and we've lost perspective a bit, we need to find different ways to quickly zoom out and put things in their rightful place. And this can look really different for all of you watching this. But you do have to find which concept resonates with you and changes your mood a bit. Now let's move on to number 3. Mentally reset by doing the opposite. Anger can have a physiological effect. Our heart rate increases, our mind is racing, and our body tightens up. And the best thing you can do is try to do the opposite sometimes. Consciously slow yourself down, how you're breathing, and even relax your body. Sometimes we need to fight one extreme with the other. I talk about this a lot in the golf swing, and it does translate to your emotions and mental state as well. The 4th way to get over your anger: embrace it and be curious. Rather than fight against the inevitability of struggle during your rounds, you need to accept that at some point, things will not go according to plan. Now, sometimes it's just impossible to avoid the initial emotional response to a shot, but we do have a choice when it passes. And in Buddhism, it's referred to as firing the second arrow. I think this is a really important concept to understand. We almost need to allow ourselves to have that little moment, but then quickly snap ourselves back into reality and not let it compound into something worse. Personally, I view this as a challenge in my rounds when it does happen. When I feel frustration boiling up, I simply challenge myself to just hang in there for the rest of the round and see what happens. That usually ends up being a better option than spending the rest of the day beating myself up and sulking, and I know that's probably the same case for you as well. Now, all of the info that I've discussed in this video really is the tip of the iceberg. We all have different triggers for anger and different solutions for it. And that's why thinking critically and rationally about your rounds while it's occurring and even after it is so important. Now, I'd love for you to share some of your causes for anger and these solutions in the comment sections to help each other out. I think it's really nice when we can share this stuff with each other. And don't miss my last video where I explore 7 warning signs that your game is heading in the wrong direction and what to do about it.